June 1984. A facility in Kamchatka, the Soviet Union. Soviet scientists attempt to force open a gate to the Upside Down. However, the mission fails. Hitman Grigory kills a scientist under orders of Stepanov, who gives the other scientist, Dr. Alexei, 1 year. 1 year later, in Hawkins, Season 3 of Stranger Things, the kids are trying to put their crazy past behind them and just be typical teenagers. A new mall called Starcourt was built, causing division among the town out of business. Dustin returns home from summer camp with a new long-distance girlfriend, Susie, that his friends speculate is made up, and sets up a radio tower to contact his new girlfriend, Susie, but his friends ditch him. Max and Lucas have developed an on-again, off-again relationship, and Mike and Eleven have begun a romantic relationship, much to Hopper's chagrin. Hopper goes full overprotective father and threatens Mike to stop him from seeing Eleven. This creates a strain on the relationship, which results in Eleven breaking up with Mike. And Steve is unsure of what to do with his life and takes a job working at the Scoops Ahoy ice cream shop in the mall. There he befriends and flirts with his new co-worker, Robin. Jonathan and Nancy both become interns at the Hawkins Post, and Hopper develops romantic feelings for Joyce, who rebuffs his advances. When Dustin tries to communicate with his girlfriend Susie via radio, he accidentally intercepts a mysterious Russian transmission. At Starcourt's ice cream parlor, Scoops Ahoy, Dustin reunites with Steve, who now works at the parlor. Steve's coworker and former classmate, Robin, becomes curious about their activities and helps them translate the Russian transmission. The three uncover a coded message. He teams up with Steve, Robin, and Lucas's younger sister, Erica, to decode the message, revealing that Russians were unloading mysterious shipments at the Starcourt Mall at night. The group arrive in a Soviet base under Starcourt. Upon further investigation, the group discovers an elevator leading to a Russian lab deep below the mall's surface. Inside the lab, the group hiding from Russian soldiers, the group finds Russian scientists attempting to reopen a portal to the Upside Down. Steve and Robin are captured, drugged, and interrogated, but Dustin and Erica rescue them. Max and Eleven bond to distract themselves from Mike and Lucas while shopping at Starcourt. Eleven breaks up with Mike after he lies to her about Hopper threatening him. Eleven uses her powers to spy on Mike. Will fights with Lucas and Mike over their disinterest in playing Dungeons and Dragons and flees to Castle Byers to be alone. Mike and Lucas find Will, and Will reveals that the MindFlyer is still alive. Meanwhile, Joyce investigates a strange loss of magnetism among objects at her home and workplace, accidentally standing Hopper up for a date. Joyce convinces Hopper that the demagnetization is linked to the abandoned Hawkins lab. Upon investigating, Hopper is attacked by Grigory, the Russian operative. Hopper and Joyce force corrupt town mayor Larry Klein to reveal that he helped Russians buy properties across Hawkins, including the newly constructed mall, for some mysterious, nefarious purposes. Eventually, Hopper and Joyce search one of the Soviet-owned properties, discovering a hidden laboratory. Grigory arrives to kill them, and they narrowly escape with a hostage, a scientist named Dr. Alexei, in tow. Alexei, who doesn't speak any English, they take Alexei to a conspiracy theorist, Murray Bauman, to help translate. Hopper and Joyce hold Alexei hostage, forcing him to reveal that the Russians are attempting to access the Upside Down via a portal beneath Starcourt. Hopper tries to inform Dr. Allens, but Joyce insists they return to Hawkins immediately, fearing that their kids may be involved. Grigory corners Klein at Hawkins' Independence Day fair, demanding he step up efforts to find Hopper. The group is pursued by a Russian soldier, Grigory, who kills Alexei for his betrayal. Meanwhile, Nancy and Jonathan, working as interns at the Hawkins Post, investigate the home of Doris Driscoll, an elderly woman concerned about rabid rats eating her fertilizer. Nancy and Jonathan find reports of missing fertilizer and strange behavior among rats across town, and they discover Mrs. Driscoll herself eating fertilizer in her home. Nancy and Jonathan are fired by their boss, Tom Holloway, Heather's father, for harassing Mrs. Driscoll. Nancy visits Mrs. Driscoll at the hospital out of suspicion and watches her become possessed by the MindFlyer. Also possessed by the MindFlyer, Max's older stepbrother, Billy. Meanwhile, rats congregate in an abandoned mill called Brimborn Steelworks, where they explode into an organic mass. Billy is guided by the creature into kidnapping his coworker, Heather Holloway, taking her to the creature. Max and 11 track down Billy at Heather's home, and after they leave, Billy and Heather subdue their parents and bring them to the mill to be possessed by the MindFlyer. Will reveals his connection with the MindFlyer to Mike, Lucas, 11, and Max, speculating that it has possessed Billy. They devise a plan to trap Billy in the pool sauna to confirm he is possessed, but Billy escapes and nearly kills them until 11 subdues him. Billy returns to the mill, where dozens of townspeople have since been possessed by the MindFlyer. 11 uses her powers in an attempt to psychically communicate with Billy, learning of his troubled childhood and fighting the MindFlyer at the mill. Billy senses 11's presence, giving the MindFlyer access to her location, and reveals that the MindFlyer plans to kill her in revenge for closing the portal in Season 2. The Flyed converge on the mill, where they are absorbed into the MindFlayer's proxy. The creature finally breaks through the roof and begins to hunt 11. The MindFlyer attacks 11's group, seriously wounding 11. The group then teams up with Nancy and Jonathan. The group theorized that Billy and Driscoll are possessed or flayed by the MindFlyer. The group decide to visit Driscoll at the hospital to learn more, but Nancy discovers Driscoll is missing. Nancy and Jonathan are attacked by Tom and Bruce. Realizing Tom and Bruce are possessed by the MindFlyer, Nancy and Jonathan decide to attack. After killing Tom and Bruce, the two melt and amalgamate into a single organic mass, becoming a monster. 11 uses her powers to scare the monster away. It flees to the steel mill and becomes part of the larger creature. After breaking into a supermarket, the group treat 11's wounds and gather supplies. Dustin and Erica hide a drugged Steve and Robin in the Starcourt movie theater. Dustin contacts 11's group over walkie-talkie to explain the situation, but runs out of battery power. 11 uses psychic projection to locate Dustin, and the group travel to the mall. In the mall, to rescue Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica, 11 defeats the Russians, but collapses due to her wound from the MindFlyer. She realizes a piece of the MindFlyer had been embedded inside her, and upon removing it, she suddenly loses all her powers. Hopper, Joyce, and Muri arrive at the mall to save the kids and destroy the Russian machine that was opening a new portal as the kids tried to leave the MindFlyer. And plans are made to take 11's group to safety. Hopper, Joyce, and Muri make their way to the machine, with Dustin and Erica navigating from Dustin's radio tower. Billy and the MindFlyer trap 11's group at the mall. The others attack the MindFlyer with fireworks as 11 manages to get through to the possessed Billy, recounting his happiest memory with his deceased mother that 11 had witnessed when previously inside his mind. Billy then realized all the terrible things he had done and sacrificed himself to the MindFlyer in order to save his sister Max and all of her friends. Down in the lab, Hopper, Joyce, and Muri raced to the machine, guided by Dustin via radio, to shut down the machine. The trio needed to crack a safe that held the necessary shutdown keys. The combination to the safe was the quantum mechanics equation for Planck's constant. Fortunately, Dustin knew exactly who to call for the solution, and radios his very real camp girlfriend. The genius Susie. Susie, unaware of how dire Dustin's situation, so she asks him to sing her favorite song. Forces him to duet the theme song from Never Ending Story before giving him the code. Hopper and Joyce open the safe and grab the keys, ready to shut down the machine. Unfortunately, Grigori arrives and attacks Hopper. Hopper kills Grigori by throwing him into the machine, causing the whole system to malfunction. Hopper is left with no way to escape, and due to time running out, he gives Joyce the signal to destroy the machine anyway. A distraught Joyce turns the key, closing the gate, and vaporizing Hopper in the process. With the gate to the Upside Down closed, the MindFlyer in the mall collapses. Joyce is forced to trigger an explosion, closing the gate, with Hopper seemingly being disintegrated in the process. 3 months later, Starcourt Mall is destroyed, and the deaths are covered up, and the corrupt Mayor Klein is arrested. The Byers family take in the now powerless 11 and prepare to leave Hawkins forever. Mike and 11 reaffirm their love for each other as 11 departs, and make plans to meet at Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, over in Kamchatka, Russian guards are instructed to feed a prisoner, but not the American, to a captured Demogorgon. Hopper is revealed to be alive and held prisoner as his captors continue their experiments on the Upside Down and its villainous inhabitants. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.